7.87 miles, 8 minutes, 48 seconds per mile, 131 beats per minute. Taking it nice and easy today for what apparently was the last run along the lakefront for I don't know how long. As I got back around 8 o'clock in the morning, which was apparently something that I didn't realize till I returned was the cutoff time for when the mayor shut down the lakefront path and all adjacent lakefront areas in Chicago because people weren't social distancing. Now, I don't necessarily think that I was 100% perfect the entire time. I don't think that solo runners like myself were necessarily the problem. I don't think our numbers just being out there helped the situation either. So I'm disappointed in the situation. I'm very sad. These are my normal stomping grounds. This is my route. I don't ever commute to go to where I run. This is a couple of blocks outside my home. That's why I run there, because it's convenient. Number two, because it's beautiful and I love it. So I think that it's a shame that we've got to this. It's necessary that we got to this, though. And she was seeing pictures, now that it's getting nicer out in Chicago, of lots of people congregating, people playing soccer, basketball, runners running in groups, even though they were trying to maintain some social distance. I just think the groups together are a little bit alarming from when you're watching photographs taken of the area. So I can understand kind of all that's happening. So in Chicago, there's, the way I see it, there's 3 levels of kind of decision making in terms of what you are and aren't allowed to do. One is for us, what the state is allowing us to do. The state, we are at a stay-in-home kind of order, which means most essential businesses are still open, but non-essential businesses are all closed. Bars, restaurants, coffee shops, those kinds of things, all closed. They're open for takeout and delivery, that kind of thing, but you can't go there. You are allowed to go outside for a walk, a hike, or for a run. That's something that our governor has told us in tweets following the issuance of his stay-at-home order, which was quite a while ago at this point. It seems like an eternity. It could have been 2 days ago. It feels like an eternity. So I feel like my running outside is consistent with that stay-at-home order. Then at the more local level than that is the mayor of Chicago, Mayor Lori Lightfoot. She issued, she is now locked down, not locked down, but order that people stay away from the lakefront and the adjacent areas and the 606 trail, which is another very popular running and cycling trail. A lot of that area has a lot more families and people that are a lot more local. There aren't like parking lots near that area, so a lot of people are from those neighborhoods that are congregating there. And I tend to see a lot of families that are there, not just like 1 or 2 people, but like groups of 4, which I don't think is a problem if it's the same household. But again, there were photographs from there that were kind of distressing from a disease infection and contagion kind of perspective. So I can understand that, but that's also closed. That's the area where I did all the speed work last summer as I was preparing for the Chicago Marathon with the Nike team that I was training with then. So that's also closed. So like basically the 2 most popular running and cycling areas, and also 2 very popular recreational areas aside from running and cycling, those are also closed. Then there's a third, even more local kind of decision-making authority, and that's me and my family, what we're comfortable with. And I still think that like the running that I've been doing is still, it's no longer consistent with what the mayor's doing, so I'm going to be complying with that order. And so it leaves me with now, what do I do tomorrow, right? What do I do the next day? So that's something that my wife and I, and as a family, we're deciding. We still think it's okay to go out for a run. The mayor still thinks it's okay to go outside for exercise, to walk your dog, that kind of thing. So tomorrow I am going to go outside. I'll be hitting the city streets rather than the car-free zones that I normally run in. So I'll have to be extra vigilant to watch out for more traffic than I'm used to. I'll be doing a lot more starting and stopping. I won't be able to get in more of those rhythms that I like, but at least I'm still able to get out there for now. I assume at some point things will get more drastic. Just to compare that, there's been places in the Midwest, which Chicago is in the Midwest, but we are an urban area here. Yesterday on the IG live streams, I was talking with Triathlon Taryn, and he was saying up where he is in Winnipeg, people aren't taking it quite, there aren't the their like provincial and then more local levels of orders are very different than what they are here. So that's the first level of context. The second level of context is that they are less populated than we are here, and they have much fewer cases than we have here. And so people are handling it differently there, even though geographically, in the global scheme of things, we're not that far away. From a local perspective, Canada's an eternity away from me here, although not that far. But from a global perspective, we're in the same time zone still, so still relatively close. But he was telling me that on his run, he was seeing, groups of neighbors gathering together for cookouts. And that's very similar to what I'm hearing about from my in-laws that are in Iowa, just a couple hundred miles, basically due west, or maybe like northwest north. I always get those, like, I'm so bad at maps and directions. But it's a little bit north, but mostly west. Not due west, but mostly west. Or this way for you guys watching at home. But they're having a hard time kind of like grappling with why all these things need to be shut down. They're not seeing that many cases in that county where they are, although there are cases in that county where they are. So it's hard because, the shelter in place, the shelter in home, that means something to people in the Midwest. In the Midwest, that means that a tornado is coming. On the East Coast, where I grew up, that means that there's a hurricane coming. And those kind of weather patterns, you can like shelter in place, shelter at home with extended family, with your neighbors. If it looks like it's nice outside, then it's okay to kind of be out there. Although tornadoes are a little bit different than hurricanes in terms of like how quickly things can change. So that's been something that I had to learn over my years living in the Midwest. But it's like those kinds of things that people are doing in the Midwest where they're not in urban areas, that's consistent with what they've experienced previously with these kinds of orders and measures. So like that's very different on the one end of the spectrum. And then I'm hearing from a lot of you guys in England, where you guys are, I think it seems like, I don't know what the exact level of lockdown you guys are on over there, but it seems like you guys are limited to one like instance of exercise per day. And already you guys are calling the cops on each other, saying that someone's going out for a double. So I think that's amusing, unfortunate, but also a different level. I think a little bit more precautions than we have here in Chicago, way more than what we have in the Midwest generally, and the Midwest generally having a lot less than what we have here in Chicago. So everyone's like different, and what's prudent, I think some people, those of you who are commenting to me from Italy and from Spain, are telling me that everyone should be on full lockdown, no going out for anything. I can understand where you guys are coming from. I think, though, that there are different levels depending on what's going on in your area. On the other hand, I haven't seen what you guys have seen, so I'm taking your advice, at least to heart. I'm listening to it. I hear it. And we have to make our decisions in compliance with our local authorities and the scientific advice that we are receiving. And so that's kind of where we are. For me personally, I'm still allowed to walk the dog, so I walk the dog. I'm still allowed to take the children outside. They have tons of energy to burn. That's still permitted, so I'm doing that. We do it about once a day. Sometimes it's twice, depending on how much energy they have, whether the weather is nice. But it's been about once a day. We take them around the block a couple of times. They take their scooters, they take their bikes. We stop along the sidewalk when there's other people. The neighborhood here is relatively young. I'm starting to be towards like past the median age of this neighborhood. Well, I'm way past the median age. I'm not sure if I'm past the mean age because there are a lot of senior living areas. Like centers, like high rises or large buildings that house they're not like nursing homes, but they're like retirement centers, different levels of assisted living. So I think I'm above the median age for here. So if we see that, we just kind of stay on opposite ends of the sidewalk. If we see someone that looks a little bit older than me, then we'll kind of pull off to the side and wait for people to pass as we take the kids out. Today I went to the store to get dog food. The dog ran out of dog food. I'd ordered some from Walmart, but that order had been canceled. Not by me, by them. And so I had to go to the store to get it. And on the plus side, the dog food that my dog eats is being discontinued, I think. So it was on substantial discount. So I got it for like 1/3 the price. So there's that. But it's pretty quiet out there. But at the same time where like, people that normally run along the lakefront are being inconvenienced, people that can go about that don't run can go about pretty much their daily lives right now. So there's a little bit of inconsistency there, which I think is going to start frustrating a lot of people. I'm trying to be patient about that. Although one of the big inconsistencies was this morning. So I'm actually the following day from the footage you just saw. And so this morning, the governor just announced that he is going to, in fact, close all of the golf courses in the state. Why they were allowed to remain open when there's a stay-in-home order that governor issued, I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of things that I can infer from that, but so at least that consistency shut down, and I'm seeing that like the frustration at the inconsistency happening. I think that's what's going on with a lot of younger people. I don't think it's so easy to say that with younger people that they're being like, I don't care, I'm young, it's not going to affect me, so I'm going to go spring break and party. Those spring breakers that they got like footage of, those people are definitely like that. But I think I think it's inappropriate to kind of paint the entire generation with that brush of those guys. But like for example, like my nephew was having a hard time. He works at he's in high school. He works part-time at a grocery store, and he's been working a ton now, picking up more shifts because people are shopping for food. They're getting ready for when they might not. I mean, they're a couple of weeks behind us where they're starting to get really concerned now that they're going to need to stock up for a little while. So he's been working at the grocery store a ton, and yet he was having a hard time because, his parents, my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law are trying to figure out how to tell him that he can't go have a sleepover at his friend's house. Even though that would be a family friend, and a very limited exposure, whereas he's at a grocery store where he's being exposed to lots of people all day long. So there's so many inconsistencies there, and there's difficulties there, and a lot of it's not going to make sense. I think there's parts of me that feel like locking down the entire lakefront, closing off that area, which symbolically also means a lot because that area is given to the city of Chicago in trust. And so it's basically if you want to get into the legal perspective of it, the city of Chicago doesn't own it. The state of Illinois doesn't own the lakefront. That's a public park. It's given to the city in trust so long as it's maintained for public use, and that structure's over a certain kind of like height, although that's been kind of fiddled with a bit. As long as structures over a certain height aren't erected, so that way it won't obstruct people's view of Lake Michigan. And so to close that down, I think symbolically, I think people are missing out on that part. That symbolically, that means a lot. But this area that's held by the city of Chicago in trust for the people of Chicago, for the people of Illinois, being shut down for the state of Illinois, and it's the benefit of the people there, I think symbolically means a lot, but also is probably the most appropriate thing that can happen in Chicago. There's lots of parts of me that don't think it makes a lot of sense, but there's lots of parts of me that do think it makes a lot of sense, but that's just kind of where we're at. I'm trying to process this thing still too. I've been spending a lot of time yesterday messaging a lot of my local Chicago running friends, trying to figure out like, what are we going to do next? What are we going to run next? How long is too long to be outside? We're not really getting that kind of direction or limitation yet. Hopefully we won't. So I don't know. I think we have to all kind of figure that out. It's not completely an individual decision because it impacts others. I understand that. So I don't know. I guess that's the ultimate point. That's the check-in for today, is that I don't know. Before I go today, I do want to remind you guys about the charity run of the week. I don't have a charity runner of this week for this week, given that there's no races right now. And so what my wife and I did, we donated to our local food bank. And I invited you guys to also do stuff that's local to your community and send me screenshots. You don't have to send me the amount. I don't care about the amount. I just care about the effort and the thought. And you don't have to donate money either. Just check in on someone that's in your neighborhood, that's in your family. Be super local and think about someone else and reach out and connect to people. I think it's really important, especially connect out to those introverts who left to their own devices might just kind of retreat a a little bit too much. So let's make sure we do that. There are people that have been sending me screenshots of the great work that they've been doing in their local communities. I talked to you the other day about Sabine Reuter, and then I also got a message from Michael Mansfield, Swim Bike Run. And he donated, he's local to this area as well, and he also donated to the local food pantry here. So thank you, Michael, for not only participating and being a regular donor to the Charity of the Week program, but also helping the local community out in a time of need where I can't imagine what it's like to be working at that food bank and having to continue to support the community when there is like no finish line in sight as of yet. And so I think this kind of support is really important. And we're all remembering that we're all still connected. So that's all I have for today, everybody. A little bit of a downer video for today. I apologize for that, but that's kind of where we're at. That's the reality of here. That's the reality of where you are. So I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. I hope you guys are staying safe, and I will see you guys tomorrow.
Yo, what's going on?